Peace. What's happening, good people? This gift here for Payusnomind, and we're doing a comparison video of Distrokid versus Tunecore. Now, Distrokid has a $20 unlimited plan that doesn't even come with a release date, so we're not even going to consider that. And if that is what you're looking at, then this is not the comparison video you want to watch. Also, we are not taking into account like all of the features that these distributors offer. If you want to see like everything they have to offer, then I suggest you get the guide to digital distribution ebook that I have. It's a link to it in the description box. It comes with like a chart comparison of all of the distributors and everything like that, so you can check that out. Link in the description box. Now, what we are comparing is the economics of this choice and the different things that have the profoundest impact on revenue. So let's get ready to rumble. I always wanted to say that. All right. Now, Distrokid versus Tunecore. Distrokid charges $35 for unlimited distribution. And Tunecore, on the other hand, charges $10 per single per year or $50 per album per year. So you have to pay that $50 every year for every album, or $10 for the single every year. $10 for every single every year with Tunecore. And that's like the difference between the two pricing models. One is per release per year, the other pay one fee, unlimited. Now let's dig into the different features and the impact of these features on revenue. First, you have Content ID, which is for YouTube, where they have an audio fingerprint for your song. They find other videos that contain your music. They claim it. They collect the revenue from the ads. They pay you the revenue, right? And that's how you make money from Content ID. Now, YouTube now with Distrokid charges annual fees for Content ID. They charge $5 per single per year for Content ID, or $14 per album per year for Content ID, plus 20% of your Content ID revenue. So it is annual fees per release plus 20% of your Content ID revenue. Tunecore does not charge annual fees for Content ID. They just take 20% of your Content ID revenue. No annual fees, just 20%. Now, there is also new stores and being able to have your music automatically added to new stores. And that impacts revenue because if your music isn't there, people can't stream it, people can't buy it, so you lose money. Now, why is it important to have your music automatically added there? Because you might not be keeping track of when Beats becomes Apple Music, or when TikTok creates Rezo, or when whatever company decides to create a new streaming platform. You might not be keeping track of that. You might not know that your music is not there and available for people to buy and stream and things of that nature. And if you don't know that, then you don't even know to add your music. And if you do, then you have to go into a your digital distributor and manually add your releases to these stores, each and every release. Now, Distrokid charges $8 per release per year for that feature. Tunecore does not charge annual fees for that feature. When it comes to Content ID and automatically having your releases added to new stores, Tunecore charges a $10 one-time fee for both of those features. So it's $10 once for Content ID, $10 once for you to have your music automatically added to new stores. And because they give a discount on your initial release when you first drop an album, that drops the price down to the point where the additional $10 for Content ID and to have your music automatically added to new store just brings it back up to the $50 standard rate. So no matter what, you end up paying the $50, right? So that's one thing to keep note of. Now, there are other factors here. Things like pre-orders. Now, pre-orders allow you to generate more revenue from your releases by getting your fan base excited and mobilizing them and everything like that. And I've made like a couple $1,000s from pre-orders with an individual artist where we put the album out and we say, hey, or put the album release date up and we say, hey, if you want it now, you can get it through pre-order. Now, in addition, there are certain tools that you have at your disposal for incentivizing people to buy the album early, like instant gratification tracks, which allow them to get a song off the album immediately when they pre-order it. So they get a song nobody's heard right now if they pre-order the album now, and then they just gotta wait for the full album to drop to get everything else. There also is the feature and the tool of special pre-order pricing, where you could sell an album for $5 now and $10 when it drops, which gives people the incentive of getting a 50% discount by buying it early. Now, pre-orders have impacts on you charting and stuff because people buy it early. Those sales don't count until the first week when the album drops. Then you get a whole bunch of sales over a whole span of months that can contribute to your first week sales, which could drive up more interest in your releases by charting and things of that nature, which could result in more money. Now, both distributors offer pre-orders. Distrokid and Tunecore do pre-orders, but special pre-order pricing, only Tunecore. Now, also, there is royalty advances. Now, royalty advances is something that is overlooked too, and that is the way, by and large, most artists kind of survive until they build a name and can, like, make money off of their name doing shows and sponsorships and stuff like that. The advance is what they live off of. Now, with advances, you can get royalties for your streams and your downloads for years now, like right now. So you can take a number of years worth of your royalties, and get paid for it up front. And that money can be put into things like your next album, paying for a music video, even outside of music, where you could go and invest in starting a business, maybe put a down payment on a house, anything that advances could be used for. And Tunecore gives you advances. Distrokid does not. So Distrokid doesn't give you any advances. Tunecore does. Now you also have the aspect of transaction fees, and transaction fees is what your payment provider, or what their payment provider charges to process payments. So you have PayPal. PayPal charges 2.9% plus 30 cents. That's pretty much the standard rate. Now both of them, with their payment processors, is 2.9% plus 30 cents, but they cap it. So Distrokid caps it at $1. So no matter how much you withdraw, you'll never pay more than $1 per withdrawal from Distrokid. And with Tunecore, they cap it at 25 cents. So no matter how much you withdraw from Tunecore, you will never pay more than 25 cents with transaction fees. Now, considering all of the different fees that you have to pay and everything like that, what's the total cost of a release with Distrokid versus Tunecore? Now, when it comes to something like a single, you end up paying $48 per single per year, and around $67 you would end up paying for an album with Distrokid for the year. And those things include things like the cost of Content ID, the cost of automatically having your release added to new stores, and another thing I forgot to mention is Shazam. And Shazam, we don't know what exactly they do when they distribute to Shazam, like what's the point of it? But I can tell you the cost, and Distrokid charges $1 per release or per single per year for Shazam. And Tunecore, Shazam is free. So if you're factoring in everything, that is a single, $5 for Content ID, $8 to automatically be added to new stores, plus $1 for Shazam. And that altogether would come up to about $13, $14 for the release of a single, plus the $35 annual fee that you have to pay for unlimited. And with the album, you're talking $14 for Content ID plus $8 for your release to automatically be added to new stores. And if it's a 10-song release, then that would be $10 for Shazam. And that would bring you to a total, including the $35 that you would have to pay for unlimited, to $67 for the album. $67 for the album with Distrokid. So when you factor in those annual fees, it kind of escalates the cost. Now, if you think about it, right, you say, okay, well, you have unlimited distribution. That means you could pump out a bunch of releases every year. And if you have 10 releases with Distrokid versus 10 releases with Tunecore, how much do you end up paying? Now, 10 releases with singles, 10 single releases with Distrokid will cost you about $165 versus $100 with Tunecore. So you would save $75 by using Tunecore over Distrokid. Now, when it comes to albums, you would end up paying about $355 for 10 albums with Distrokid versus $500 for 10 albums with Tunecore. So you would end up saving about $145 if you went with Distrokid over Tunecore. Now, when you think about that $145, you consider the fact of, okay, well, is it worth it to save $145, right? Is it worth it to save $145? When you consider things like advances. So let's say you make $10,000 a year from your releases through digital distribution, right? Through streams on Spotify and sales and stuff like that. If you make $10,000 a year from those releases and you can get an advance right now, today, of 3 years worth of your royalties, which would be $30,000. And you could take that $30,000 and put a down payment on a house, start a business, open up a daycare center, whatever have you, or invest in your music, take $30,000, put it into marketing and promoting your music. Is it worth it to sacrifice the potential of that to save $145? Right? So is it worth it to lose being able to take $30,000 and make a move with it to save $145? Then you factor in things like stores. Distrokid gets you into about, they get you into 23 stores, and Tunecore gets you into 38. So you miss out on 15 stores, and you have to factor that into it by thinking about, okay, well, what do you lose and not being in those 15 additional stores? Now, those stores aren't just streaming platforms and digital download stores. They are opportunities for discovery, because it's digital jukeboxes, it's platforms that get you into workout software like Peloton and things of that nature. It's opportunities to get into retail stores, clothing stores, supermarkets, things of that nature. And all it takes is for one person to hear your music, the right individual person, for your life to change. That person be somebody that work at a label, be a label executive, be the owner of a label, anything like that. So that's the point of getting your music out into the world in as many places as possible. So you factor the loss of that opportunity combined with the actual loss of revenue, where you're losing streams by not having your music available in these places, and also downloads. So you consider that and you say, is that worth saving $145? You also have to factor in the loss of revenue from pre-orders. So you factor in the loss of revenue from pre-orders. Let's say through incentivized pre-orders, it's a situation like how I had with artists, and you could be potentially losing $1,000 per release by not being able to take advantage of things like instant gratification and special pre-order pricing. So if you can earn $1,000 per release through pre-orders for 10 albums, that would mean you're sacrificing potentially $10,000 to save $145. So you could be sacrificing a $30,000 advance to save $145. You could be sacrificing getting discovered by somebody who might be able to change your entire world and revenue and from streams and downloads in exchange for saving $145. You could be sacrificing a $10,000 in pre-order revenue to save $145. So it can become somewhat of a penny wise and pound foolish decision. Penny wise because you save $145. Pound foolish because you sacrifice $30,000 in advances, $10,000 in pre-order revenue, and potential discovery with recording contracts and whatever have you to save $145. So, I mean, agree to disagree or agree, whatever you so choose. You guys can comment your opinion in the comments below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe if you haven't done that. You go, as always, y'all can hit me up at Payusnomind on Instagram, at Payusnomind on Twitter, Payusnomind@gmail.com. This is Gift signing off. Pay us no mind. Peace, good people. One.